Good evening and welcome back to Sports Talk ATL. I am Chase Earl, joined by Alex. Lord, insane. And when I say insane, it's funny because what do we say, Alex? Everyone's talking about, oh, can Tennessee get in the playoffs? Now we're talking about, is Tennessee a top five team? And frankly, let's just call a spade a spade. This was a terrible look for the SEC stands, for the people that were the SEC is the best conference, yada yada yada. I mean, what happened to Alabama? I want to start there on Saturday night. Was an absolute embarrassment. It was great if you don't like Alabama, which is us, but if you stand for the SEC as a conference, it was a terrible look. I mean, they were physically dominated from start to finish. It was the Jalen Milroe against LSU and Georgia has looked like Lamar Jackson, the second coming, a number one overall pick. And against everybody else, he has fallen completely on his face. And this was the worst of Alabama football. They're Jekyll and Hyde, the ultimate Jekyll and Hyde. And you wonder if it's DeBoer. Is it Saban? Are they relying too much on the quarterback? Is it Milroe himself? Unbelievable performance from Oklahoma and Venables, who I've given a lot of crap on this show. And we'll talk about Napier later in the show, two of my guys. But unbelievable.
Well, I think, I think people who are gonna paint this Alabama loss as bad, it was bad, but this isn't the same Oklahoma team that said Texas face, that Texas beat. That is not the same Oklahoma team, because Jackson Arnold is now playing up to expectations, which wasn't always the case. There was a stretch there for about 4 or 5 games where Oklahoma was better off, trotting out me or you at quarterback. So, this loss, though, terrible look for Alabama. Can't get around that. But let's put some context to the situation, because there's no defending Bama or Jalen Milroe, because they are Jekyll and Hyde. I mean, it's Tennessee and Oklahoma, or it's LSU and Georgia. Who is Alabama? Who is Jalen Milroe? Who is Kalen DeBoer? I'm not sure. I don't think anybody could tell you for sure. They'd be lying to you if they could tell you they were sure one way or the other. But I want to focus on Oklahoma. This Oklahoma team is good. Not playoff caliber good, making a case. But this loss, in my opinion, is going to be misconstrued by the national media, the Danny Cannells, the Big Ten advocates, because they think that Oklahoma, based on box scores and overall record, is a bad football team. And the same is going to be said about the Florida game for Ole Miss's loss, that this Florida team is not the same Florida team that other teams have been, kicking around for most of the season. Bama, might still get into the college football playoff, but I'll tell you one thing, I wouldn't want to play them, because you don't know who's going to show up. You really don't.
I mean, I think that's the biggest thing with Bama. Like, people kind of want to put them in there because they know at their peak, at their highest, they can beat anyone in the country. You don't know what you're going to get. It was my biggest reason against people that were picking Alabama to win the national championship. I'm like, well, they're not going to they might not get a first round bye. And even if they do, they got to win 3 straight games, which means they're going to have to perform at that Jekyll. I don't know which one's the bad one. I guess Jekyll's the good one. So they're going to have to perform at that Jekyll. Yeah, I mean, we're not English historians here, but I think it's Jekyll, and I might be wrong, but we're going to go with it. They're going to have to perform at that Jekyll, that good version of Alabama, 3 or 4 games in a row. I'm not sure they could do that, but on any given Saturday, obviously, you could get the best version of Alabama and get crushed. But listen, as much as I will agree with you on the Florida aspect of things, that's clearly a better team. That's a team that right now is a top 25 team in the country. They played like it over the last several weeks. They very easily could have beaten Georgia a few weeks ago. Then they go and beat LSU and Ole Miss. Obviously a team that's playing much better with DJ Lagway and has found some confidence with him under center. And Billy Napier has done a great job turning things around there. I'm going to push back a little on the Oklahoma thing because, yes, this is a better team with Jackson Arnold. This team threw for 68 yards and dominated Alabama. I mean, they did not pass the ball. They ran for over 250 yards. I mean, they, on both sides of the ball, out-physicaled. And they did what, Brent Venables is a great defensive coordinator. We've always known that. And that's really been the key push behind this Oklahoma defense being quietly one of the better defenses. He did what I wanted LSU to do. He did what any team should play Alabama if he did, and said, hey, we're going to stack 8 in the box. Jalen Milroe ain't running, so you better start throwing the ball or test it. And then he started making mistakes. I have no idea why that isn't the plan for every single team.
It's not like Brent Venables is the greatest defensive mind ever. Good defensive guy. very simple. We're paying Blake Baker all this money, LSU that is, and we're trying to, put light boxes against Jalen Milroe and Alabama. I mean, this wasn't like a math test or a math exam. I mean, it was fairly simple. It's like Jalen Milroe, bad throwing, good runner, forced throw. I mean, that's a simple equation.
Well, listen, but we saw it in the first half of Georgia too, right? Like they let Jalen Milroe run the ball, and it's not even it's literally just make anybody else, the running back, anybody else on Alabama beat you. And I don't know, and the script's so clearly out that I don't know that they can go and win a college football. And obviously, they're going to need some luck to go out there and get into the playoff. And if they do get in, whatever, like I'm not going to sit here and say, hey, they don't deserve it, because frankly, there's not 12 very good football teams. There might not be 5 very good football. Frankly, if this was a 4-team playoff, I'd have trouble picking the 4 teams. I mean, it's been that weird of a college football season. But listen, let's go to the Napier side of things. Let's go to Ole Miss. This was another game. We talked about it. I think we both thought Ole Miss would take care of business, even against as good as this Florida. And they were the better team for 4 quarters. And this is what we've seen from Ole Miss 3 different times this season against 3 lesser opponents. They have beaten the big dogs. They beat Georgia. But LSU, they dominated that game, found a way to lose, shot themselves in the foot, turnovers, penalties, 4th down conversions. We love to see live by the sword, die by the sword. Lane Kiffin lives that like any other coach. If he kicks a couple of field goals there on 4th and 1s, they win this ball game. And when you have a defense like Ole Miss has and has progressed into one of the elite defenses in college football, you wonder when Lane Kiffin would learn, hey, we're on the road in the SEC against a fired-up opponent. Let's take our points. Let's trust our defense and win football games that way. And he just never learned it. And this team should have won this game. They should have beat Kentucky. They should have beat LSU. It's another game where they spend almost no time behind except for like the very last few minutes of the game. And they lose. They lose all 3 of those. All they had to do, like, if I'm Ole Miss, I'm looking at Lane Kiffin. I'm not saying you can fire him. You're not going to get any better. And he's done a good job recruiting and obviously building a good team. But God, when are you going to learn from your mistakes? I mean, 3 separate times this year, you can look specifically at Lane Kiffin and say that if we just played a little smarter and coached a little smarter, we win all 3 of those games. But they only needed to win 1. And to lose all 3 like that, if you're an Ole Miss fan, for everything they've been through, never really having a great team, national caliber worthy, I mean, this has got to feel like a stake through the heart. I mean, I can't imagine what they're feeling today.
Yeah, it's the best team they've had under Lane Kiffin, bar none. And much of that rests on the defensive side of the ball. This is the best defense Ole Miss has had in my lifetime, probably. And they're no closer to winning a national championship than they've ever been. Regardless of the team. And as an Ole Miss fan, I'm sure those guys are like, we really are never going to win a national championship. Like, after losing to Florida, I would have swallowed that pill like, wow, we're really never going to win it. Because they spend, 10, 15, $20 million this past offseason going into the transfer portal. They had the top transfer portal class. And quite frankly, I think they hit it out of the park. They did really well. They improved exactly where they needed to. And it still wasn't enough. And, we can all blame Lane Kiffin and everything, but I think more should go to Billy Napier and DJ Lagway. DJ Lagway has single-handedly saved Billy Napier's entire coaching career. I don't think that's, an overstatement. DJ Lagway has single-handedly saved Billy Napier's entire coaching career because he gets fired. Let's say, DJ Lagway never plays. They fire Billy Napier out. Where's he going to go? Where is he going to be? He's going to have to climb the mountain, climb the ladder back again to get to an SC. No, that doesn't happen. He goes and be's a coordinator, an offensive coordinator somewhere, and then maybe a few years down the road, he gets a job at like, Tulane maybe. No. So what DJ Lagway has done, I think, is nothing short of a miracle in Gainesville. Florida looks like an ascending program that has to be taken seriously. They're going to be able to recruit. They're going to be able to pay players. And Florida is something to be taken seriously. And, this Ole Miss loss, though devastating, I'd be more worried if I was Ole Miss because about Ole Miss fans are realizing like, damn, we may never do it. We're probably never going to do it. Lane Kiffin is maybe having those same exact thoughts. And though, people are going to put this loss on him, there's no arguing that he can build a better winner at other programs who have more resources. There's no doubt about that. So I don't know if like Lane Kiffin's maybe having second thoughts or anything, but as an Ole Miss fan, this is probably the lowest you've been in maybe 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I look. It's very clear to me that Lane Kiffin can build a national championship winner, contender at Ole Miss. I mean, this is what this team was. This team should be contending in the college football playoff, should be contending, should have been in the SEC championship, maybe won the SEC. They might be the most talented and best team in the SEC. Nothing about Saturday changed my mind. I mean, they were the better team pretty much for 4 quarters until Jackson Dart went off the deep ends, which is a conversation we can have another day. But his emotions got the best of him. I mean, and he completely lost his mind at the end of the game, and you could tell a lot of it had to do with pressure. I don't know where Lane Kiffin goes from here. I don't think there's going to be a better job open for him this offseason, so I think they still got another year. But you're right. The clock is ticking for Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss, and if you're an Ole Miss fan, you're just praying every offseason that he doesn't go somewhere else, because if he does go somewhere else, you're really screwed. I mean, like this is you have to win with Kiffin, or I don't see it ever happening. And so that is a scary thought.
Well, the only way to keep Lane Kiffin is to win a national championship. Yeah. That's the only way.
I agree. But listen, nobody deserves more share of the blame and the failures for Ole Miss this season, as much as he's the reason for their success.
I agree. Griffin. Yeah, see, you can. He does deserve blame, but also like he's the reason why they're there in the first.
Yeah, no, there's no doubt.
He puts Jackson Dart in a position to succeed damn near every single play. He's recruiting at the highest level now. He puts together the best offenses in college football. Like we can all blame him, but the only reason they're there is because of Lane Kiffin.
Yeah, and I think both sides know that, but. That's what I said. Listen, I think if you're looking at biggest losers, the one that has to be just sick entering this week, I think it has to be Ole Miss. Because not only that, I mean, it's hard to see them getting in over a 3-loss Alabama. They'll have the edge over a 3-loss South Carolina because they beat the brakes off of them, but they're not going to have it over Alabama. So now you're sitting in
Tennessee.
Yeah. So
nobody.
Yeah. So you're really hoping for the worst, just absolute chaos in front of you this week that I'm not sure.
Well, I think their only path would be Georgia losing pretty badly in the SEC championship.
Yeah, that's like it's just 3 games that they shouldn't have lost. And the fact is, you only needed to win one of them. And I said this at the beginning of the 12-team playoff. For all the teams that don't get in, they have nobody to blame but themselves. You have nobody to blame but yourself for losing to Oklahoma and Florida. I don't care where the game's being played. And it's as simple as that for Ole Miss and Alabama.